Hello everyone and welcome back to episode 180 of your favourite Formula 1 show. Yes, Knowing Wheel returns today here to discuss the Spanish Grand Prix in what might well be the worst setup Jamie 183 has ever brought to the team. Yes, he's gone back across the pond. He's in America right now. I've told him he has to do the accent of wherever he is. Ready for this episode. Just to give you a bit of backstory, it's taken him 30 minutes to get set up ready for this. So we have no faith in this going well. But we're back nonetheless. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing mighty fine. And that's all the accent you're getting. So,
that was beyond terrible.
I think you've forgotten the time we did this on a phone call. So I would say that was worse.
Yeah, that was very early on, wasn't it?
I was hotspotting my laptop. No, I wasn't even doing that. We were doing it totally offline. I was just on a phone to you.
I think you were, yeah. Why did we do a phone
I was in
call?
Wales, and there was no internet, so that was it.
Oh, yes, of course.
Yeah, so I'm doing well.
So you were recording your audio. I was recording mine with a phone. That's shocking.
It's currently a chilling, 28 degrees. I've had to turn my fan off to record this, and the AC is off in my room, so you're welcome if I turn into a ball of sweat by the end of this. There's a deer's head on the wall, which you might have noticed just over there. That's a real taxidermy animal that they've hunted.
Did you kill it, or
I didn't kill it? Someone has offered me to take me hunting though, so I might be doing that this week.
I want a picture of you holding a gun.
Oh,
there's something about that.
I had one last year. I'll show you right now.
Sorry? There you go. Jamie's put himself on a watch list. When he comes back to the UK, he's about to be investigated in Manchester Airport.
Yeah.
Fantastic news. Fantastic news. But I want that, Jamie. If you get a picture of you holding a gun, that will make it onto the thumbnail next week.
Okay, great.
Which I am more than happy to do. But of course, quickly as well, before we dive into this, I just want to thank everyone for the continued support. We've been a bit all over the show the last few weeks. But we have crossed over 600 subs on the channel, 611 currently at the time of recording, and I believe as well, if I'm not mistaken, this is going to bore most of you, but it is quite important for us. We have now actually reached, so YouTube now, you have to have a certain amount of watch time and a certain amount of subscribers before you can monetize. We haven't got enough subscribers, but we have hit the watch time, which is actually the more difficult bit to do. So if you are watching this and you aren't already, please get yourself subscribed. It'd be greatly appreciated. We can start monetizing the show
and our watch time is
in the
very
very near
you
future.
Started that conversation.
Probably,
Everyone
exactly.
switched off and gone and watched something else.
Probably. Who could blame them? But yeah, we're going to be a little bit in and out over the next few weeks. Jamie's travelling, I'm travelling, so Knowing Wheel will try to live on as best as it can. But shall we actually get into the news then, Jamie?
Yeah,
ready for the triple header? We're back at Spain this weekend, aren't we? Spain in the middle of June feels wrong.
Yes. Yeah, although saying that, you'd expect the weather to be hotter than usual, which is already quite hot to begin with. But media day today in Spain is currently atrocious weather, and apparently it might be raining on race day too. So we could be in for a good race, because Spain in the wet, I feel like hasn't happened since 91 or 97.
Well, it happened in 96.
Schumacher's first win for Ferrari, wasn't it? So
yeah, 1996.
Yeah, that would be quite a spectacle. And hopefully, but yeah, I agree. Round 10, Spain it's like canon for Spain to be round 5 or 6, I feel like.
I was going to say exactly. I'm so happy you said that. Spain should be round 5 every year. Monaco should be round 6 every year. We refuse to budge on that. If we were in charge of Formula 1, there would absolutely be no kind of question or debate or conversation. That's just what happens. But of course, Barcelona, we've still got the better layout in... I think this is the penultimate Spanish Grand Prix at Barcelona. And I think we're still kind of the idea of good riddance, aren't we? To be completely honest.
Yeah. Anyway, when Madrid falls through in about 4 years' time, it'll be back at Barcelona, won't it? So.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, it's slightly better than it used to be for sure, with the last sector and turn 10 being good corners now. But yeah, it's not a huge loss off the track calendar, I think.
To be fair, it is still quite a good testing circuit, I feel.
Yeah.
Maybe not as good as it was, weirdly, because obviously they made the final sector a lot quicker.
Yeah.
But I feel like this weekend is kind of quite pivotal in a bit of a weird way. Because obviously, Red Bull have been a bit shaky recently.
Mm-hmm.
This track should theoretically really fall into McLaren's wheelhouse. We don't quite know how competitive Mercedes are still, obviously with the new wings and everything like that. And apparently they're bringing even more weight-saving measures this weekend. And obviously Ferrari are apparently bipolar, winning obviously in Monaco and then scoring nothing at all in Canada. So Barcelona this weekend might well be kind of the indicator as to whether we've actually got a title fight this year. Or will Red Bull just come here, dominate, and we can kiss any hopes and dreams goodbye?
I would expect Red Bull to be particularly strong. I think they've made a car that will be good on the average racetrack, basically, which is kind of the right thing to do, because obviously over 24 racetracks, most of them, you're not going to be able to nail Monza and Monaco 100% with the same car usually. So to make it good for the average track, and I would say Spain is probably now one of the average tracks really, with medium speed corners, high speed corners, and fairly long straights. That's kind of how it goes. And it's very smooth, and Red Bull seem to not like bumps very much. So, yeah, I would expect Verstappen to come along and get pole in the win. But if McLaren or Ferrari or Mercedes or Alonso can surprise us and throw his name in there, then, yeah, it might be a good season still.
Yeah, I think we're all hoping, aren't we, that this season still has... I mean, let's be fair. I think if you'd said coming into the year that we would have had 3 different winners for 3 different teams inside the last 4 Grand Prix. Oh. Yeah. Well, that's what I was going to say. 4 winners this year as well is a pretty impressive stat so far. And, of course, we've had an extra team on top of that that's taken a pole position. I feel like you're quite optimistic there. I want to say chucking Aston Martin into the mix, but of course we'll talk about them because there's a potential big story emerging in the very near future. But you say Red Bull should walk this one. I'm guessing that's your prediction locked in, that it's going to be Max pole and Max win.
Yeah,
when obviously we get around to that later on. This should, on paper, though, really suit McLaren. And let's not forget, they are very good on their tyres.
It will be a high tyre wear circuit. It always is. This with the, I guess less so now, but the front left takes a battering. The rear tyres are usually used to be a problem, but I guess the traction zones are kind of limited now that turn 10 and the last sector are different. But yeah, even so, the front left takes an absolute pounding with these high-speed corners.
There's a huge amount of high-speed right-handers around here, aren't there?
Yeah,
it's
so
really,
that
really
should,
not a good track.
Should be good for McLaren, especially Norris, who seems to have the measure on Piastri on race pace generally. Max is usually fighting on his own because Perez hasn't got into Q3 since April. So
early May, wasn't it?
Was it Miami? I guess Miami was just...
I think it was Miami, wasn't it? Yeah. Yeah, it was like... So it has been about 6 weeks since Sergio Perez has seen a Q2. A Q3 even, which is slightly alarming. Of course, it is also a triple header, though. The first of 2 this year, I believe. I think we've got another one, haven't we, later on in the campaign.
Yeah. The other one's really stupid, isn't it? It's like Qatar and Las Vegas or something like that.
Yeah, it's something. I think it might be right. No, I think it's Mexico, Brazil, and USA or something, isn't it? I want to say.
Okay.
But either way, it's pretty mental. I think obviously again we're going. Obviously, it's a bit odd, isn't it, now in Formula One, because we're kind of now obviously Bahrain is a pretty conventional circuit to kick off the year. And it generally gives you a good idea of roughly what pace can be. But of course, it's very much, if a team takes the car the wrong direction there, then it's kind of all a bit thrown out. Jeddah obviously is very high speed, street circuit, close wall proximity, so it's a bit more about driver confidence. Albert Park again is very high speed, but quite bumpy. Then obviously you go to Shanghai, which is again a bit more of a conventional circuit, but obviously a total unknown this year. Obviously the resurfacing really messed things around as well. Then obviously Miami, which no one could get any tyre temperature in because it was weirdly cold. Then obviously what do we have after that? Imola, which is obviously a very high downforce dependent circuit. Then Monaco, which is just Monaco, and then a resurfaced Canada. It really hasn't felt like we've these kind of next 3 races are finally 3 traditional races where we actually get an idea of how things are meant to shape up.
Yeah, and to be honest, this, like, if the pecking order is absolutely spread out again in Spain, that would always be like a bad sign for the rest of the season. You really want this qualifying to be as close as Canada was, where like you've got loads of drivers split by a couple of tenths, because if that's the case, then you can get your hopes up that, you know, going to Hungary, Belgium, Monza, maybe not Monza, that's a bit of an anomaly as well, but like all the circuits later in the season, like your Qatars and your Brazils, they're all fairly similar in terms of the corner layout and the nature of the speeds and the surface. So yeah, we'll see. Although if Qatar again does this stupid tyre thing, that'd be totally.
I was going to say Qatar, is probably not the one I would have said. It does, feel kind of in an odd way, doesn't it, that this could be quite a defining moment in the year, despite the fact it probably won't be on track, which is quite fun. Then again, obviously it could rain and this could all be thrown completely up in the air.
I guess similar to Imola in that way, which is quite a fun sentence to say, that like Imola itself wasn't a particularly good race, but because it's a fairly normal circuit in a way, it's slightly different with the amount of chicanes it's got, but when I was there, we were like, okay, the race is dead, but Norris is catching Verstappen, so that's a really good sign for the season on a normal track. So yeah, if we see something like that again, then we can start getting our hopes up.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously Barcelona as well. You wouldn't have said this 3 years ago, but it's certainly now a track where there's more overtaking opportunity than Imola. Admittedly, it's actually quite similar to Imola, isn't it? You basically sit behind someone for a lap and wait for the start-finish straight.
Yeah.
So
it's
it
slightly
could be
easier to stay close to the last sector now, though, which Imola is, like, the Rivasas don't do a good job of keeping cars close together.
No.
So.
No.
Yes.
Yeah, well, I think we'll have to wait and see, won't we? Shall we get into some driver transfer news? Because there's been quite a bit kicking around, hasn't there, recently?
Yeah.
And I think Kevin Magnussen, literally about an hour before we recorded this, kind of summed it up perfectly. I don't know if you've seen this.
I haven't watched it
at all, Jamie.
This
So basically, obviously, he was asked this morning about, obviously, what's going on with Haas, everything like that. And he basically pointed at Carlos Sainz and went, everyone is simply waiting for him to make his move, and then everything is going to fall into place. Although, weirdly, Sainz potentially has dropped the ball, because he said in a podcast, on a Spanish podcast this week, that obviously there are 18 current drivers on the grid next year, and there's going to be 2 seats available.
Yeah.
I think you'd be inclined to say, of course, one of those is Sargent's.
Yeah. And the other one's probably Joe. That's the rumours, to be honest.
I would say Zhou or Magnussen.
Yeah.
Are kind of the other two, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And to be honest, they could, like, Jack Doohan's still kicking around for that Alpine seat, so there could be 3 new drivers that then another driver has to drop. So, yeah, it basically feels like Sainz has said on record, basically, that every team that hasn't had its lineup confirmed has offered him a contract. So you're talking, obviously, the bottom 5 teams, to put it bluntly, because the top 5 all know their driver lineup. So he has the choice of...
Well, Mercedes don't.
I guess, but everyone thinks Antonelli's going there now, which I kind of think... Well,
do you think Antonelli's going there? Yes, finally.
I'm not... I got a stiff neck too much to change my mind and say hands up, I was wrong. He's actually quite good. So Sainz will... The rumours, which obviously the rumours are he's probably going to end up at Williams with
I think it's the right move.
I think there are... Audi is the right move. But Audi is just such an...
Well, yes.
I don't think Haas would make sense. And I don't think... he'd go back to RB or Alpine, to be honest. He's driven both of them before. So, yeah, I think he'll end up at Williams. Then you've got the second choice, which seems to be Ocon, is probably the next best free agent. Goes to one of those other teams that Sainz turns down. And you got Bottas to probably fit in somewhere too. He probably ends up at Alpine, because obviously they can't sign Ocon because they just got rid of him. And then, you've got you've got a few seats left, and actually quite a lot of drivers after them because Liam Lawson's still kicking around, getting screwed over by Helmut Marko every week. And yeah, there's Magnussen, there's obviously Joe with a lot of money and hasn't stacked it that much until Canada. Yeah, there's a lot of drivers and not a lot of seats. It's a shame there's no 11th team, really, isn't it?
I mean, imagine if there was a company interested in coming into Formula One that would have the backing and, potentially bring in, even ideally like a North American audience or something like that to really root for them. It'd be fantastic. Shame nothing like that exists. Although, interestingly, it's kind of rather quietly as well. I know we've spoke about this a long time ago. Hyundai are potentially eyeing up a move, and when you consider how much Formula One is trying to target South Asia currently, that could be massive. I would have both Hyundai and Andretti in tomorrow. Imagine a 24-car grid would be fantastic again.
I guess the problem with that is that there's some teams that have a zero chance of ever scoring points. But that's kind of the way it goes, isn't it? You'd have to.
I wouldn't say so.
And there's 12 teams. The chances of the 12th team being close enough to the 5th team to compete is quite slim.
Well, 6th team. Again, I don't really kind of want to see this, points for everyone or points down to 12th or anything like that. But I certainly, you would argue this year that had things gone their way, every team now with the exception of Audi or Sauber, whatever we're calling them, have now scored points.
Yeah.
Had one more thing gone their way in Bahrain, they would have scored a point.
Joe's finished one place out the points on 2 occasions. So there you go. People want rid of him.
Where else has he finished one place out?
He finished 9th in the China Sprint.
Oh, yes, of course.
There you go. I'm playing it on to that.
I think, you would probably... If you had, teams like Hyundai and Andretti that came in, we're not talking about your Manners or your Caterhams or your HRTs from the early 2010s. I believe very quickly you would still see every team with an opportunity at scoring points. Unless something went catastrophically wrong.
I would hope so.
It might well be that you have years where no team scores points. But I also think, if you had prize money down to 12th as well, which I really do think they would have to turn around, then I really don't see the problem in that. Because let's be fair, once you've reached that point, Hyundai would be obviously manufacturer backed anyway. Obviously, Sauber's going to be. Williams have got a lot of money behind them at the moment. It's only really Haas and
Alpine
debatably. Well, this was going to lead us on to our next point, because obviously we spoke about driver news there. The rumour mill is churning that obviously I think we both kind of accept, don't we, that Antonelli's coming in hopefully at Williams next year, obviously, or Mercedes.
I should say. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, Mercedes. I meant to say Mercedes.
Good.
There, to be
I was
fair.
going to say we're science off.
Behrman obviously is pretty much going to Haas, isn't he? We think, or at least we certainly hope. The rumour mill now is that Magnussen could be dropped, and it's a toss-up between Ocon, who brings, a Grand Prix victory, a fair amount of speed, some toxicity, or Zhou Guanyu, who brings less talent, but $30 million.
And he's not terrible. I think, Joe is unfairly lumped with Sargent and Latifi. I think he's better than both of those. So
I think he's better than both of those, but I would say, is he a huge amount better?
Well,
he absolutely has a higher skill ceiling.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say he's much better than Nick de Vries, and he was dropped pretty quick.
Yeah. No, I agree. But he's got a lot of money, so that helps. And a massive audience in China.
But does he? Again, the Chinese economy is crumbling as we speak.
Who knows? But I think, there's a lot of drivers to fit in still. And obviously the likes of Ricardo chilling at RB. Is he going to be there forever?
He's got to go, hasn't he?
If he goes, Lawson comes in, that's
what has he
simple.
got on Christian Horner? Yeah.
A lot of... Perez sells the shirts, so maybe they don't even need Ricardo.
Exactly. It's like, they go on about how, he's like a marketing dream and all this. Like I've said before, V-Carb now need their own junior team. That's the problem we're slowly getting to with them at the moment. I mean, just bring Honda back as like a works team, and they can have like V-Carb as their main team, and then they have a junior team.
Super Aguri. Bring them back.
We could genuinely have like 28 cars on the grid, and I would be all for it if they came with decent backing.
They need a new Concord agreement for that. But
Well, they would, yeah, but still. 2026 cars would be fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. But yeah, Zhou to Haas because of $30 million.
Could happen.
Surely now they'll look back at Mazepin and Schumacher and think it's not worth it.
It's probably the blind leading the blind a little bit, isn't it? If you have, like, they know that they want a leader in that team. And Behrman is talented, but he's a rookie. Rookies generally take a bit of time to get up to speed. Obviously, Joe would be in his 4th season, and he's done a lot of learning from Bottas, and the engineers all have good feedback on Joe. So he's a completely capable, talented driver. And to be honest, it would remind me a bit of the Ericsson-Leclerc partnership when they first started, where like Ericsson has the experience, but he's not necessarily that quick. And then by the end of the season, it's just a massive confidence booster for this kind of gem that's coming through to beat him week in, week out. So maybe it's a good thing for Behrman, definitely, to have somebody who he can learn from in the short term and then kind of probably usurp quite quickly.
Yeah, but I mean, surely then, a bit like we saw with Ericsson, that's basically Zhou shows up for one final year and then he's gone.
Yeah, I mean, but it's his intention to stay on the grid because the alternative looks to be a test driver, which he doesn't want at all. So,
well, let's be fair.
1 year's better than no years.
Yeah, unless we suddenly saw a Chinese team in Formula One, I think you would struggle to argue against the idea that if Zhou got dropped, he would ever come back. Yeah,
no, I think that too, and I think he's had a good shot, and he's been alright.
I think he's destined for Formula E, to be honest.
Well, I might start watching FE then. Who knows? Probably not.
I would love to see you start watching that. Of course, there's the other big one still, haven't we? Obviously, we mentioned Ocon potentially going to Haas. Let's not forget, in a bizarre twist of events, which I don't think we've really ever seen, at least in my memory in Formula One, we're going to potentially also end up in a situation where a works team, basically no one wants to drive for them, because Alpine, once again, it's come out this week, Renault are potentially looking at them becoming a customer team to someone else for 2026.
Yeah.
Which sounds insanely stupid.
Yeah. And it would be almost like when we had Lotus Mercedes for a year back in 2015. So
that made more sense, though.
It did, because Lotus they weren't like a major manufacturer. They were obviously backed by Renault. But yeah,
not really.
Not really. No, they weren't. Renault just took them over the year after, didn't they? But it would. Yeah, there was a brilliant video from the race that I watched on this, where like even Gasly isn't technically signed yet.
No, I was thinking of the same video.
So he's got an extension, but they haven't agreed on it yet. So, they could end up with Jack Doohan. They could end up with somebody desperate for a seat, like Joe, for instance. Yeah, it's almost like nobody wants to go there, and they might end up with the Red Bull Ford. They might end up with the Honda. They might end up with like the Cosworth out of nowhere. Who knows? It's a bit of a massive unknown. And the amount of drivers.
Well, Red Bull have already said they're not doing it, haven't they?
Well, okay, that's one gone.
Yep.
Yeah, you wouldn't see Alpine Ferrari, I don't think.
Well, this is what I was thinking about. Because let's not forget, come the end of next year, Ferrari, as of right now, are only powering Haas and themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, I suppose, because Audi... I guess there's an engine there up for grabs. That would be quite good, actually.
I mean, a Renault Ferrari sounds like the most cursed horrible thing in the world, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But then again, you think back, we had a Red Bull Ferrari back in day as well.
A long time ago. We had a Toro Rosso Ferrari for a few years, which didn't really make much sense.
We did.
Yeah. Engine parts. Mercedes powered 4 teams very briefly.
Well, they still do now. Oh, it was 4 customers, sorry, yeah. 4 customers back then, wasn't it? Yeah. Yeah, it was half the grid, wasn't it, at one point?
Maybe not half. It was 2016 when they did Manor, not McLaren.
Yeah, sorry, it was 11 teams, wasn't it?
Yeah, so we'll see. But Alpine, the amount of drivers and engineers that they've lost recently, they might as well lose an engine just to carry on with the trend.
I mean, it does. It's quite an interesting thing now. We kind of brought that up, haven't we? Because obviously Ferrari are going to be powering them and Haas. Audi are going to be powering themselves. Red Bull obviously are going to be doing Red Bull and V
Ford.
Carb, or whatever we're going to be calling
Well-
them then. Red Bull Ford, yeah. Mercedes are going to obviously be doing themselves, probably Williams.
Aston Martin and McLaren.
No, they won't be though, will they?
Oh, no,
Because Aston Martin
Honda,
taking on Honda.
So
Exactly.
it'll
It'll
just
be
be
McLaren and Williams. Obviously, then you got Aston Martin, Honda. Suddenly, you've got a lot of teams there that might have been raking in a fair decent chunk of change, that suddenly now are having to produce a lot less engines.
So maybe if Alpine don't fancy making their own Renault engine, then that's an alright shout. And it would also massively help.
They've got quite a few options.
Yeah, the operation
suddenly.
of the team would be massively improved if they had it in one factory. Because I think there's a big issue with making an F1 team across 2 different countries where you need to get a flight between them in Bury and Enstone. So, but
a boat, yeah.
the very factory just does the engine. So if you suddenly don't make the engine anymore, ship that off to go and do supercars or something, and then everything's back in Enstone, and they might actually be capable.
Well, I'm trying to... When was the last time they were pretty much solely an Enstone team?
Oh, 2015.
Would it have been... Was it 2015?
I think so, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they were between when they were Lotus, Renault, and I guess just...
Well, they were bought out mid-2015, weren't they? Because obviously Lotus were going
run out of
bankrupt.
money.
Yeah.
Because
Wild.
Kimi Räikkönen
Absolutely
got a
wild.
points bonus and then scored 200 points.
To be fair, he never claimed most of the money, though.
No.
To be fair to him, because he did say that the team needed the money more than he did, and when you're owed like a 13 was it? No, it was like how much money? It was like $19.5 million or something ridiculous. Wasn't
it was like
as
a
a
few hundred,
contract
no, it's
bonus,
like 50 or 100k per point.
50 grand a
Yeah.
point. Yeah, and he scored 390 points over those 2 seasons. Just absolute insanity. The other alternative, of course, is. Do they just sell up to Andretti or something like that?
Yeah,
Because I think this is the problem, isn't it? They'd be far more inclined if Formula One was willing to let Andretti in. But obviously Andretti had already said they'd be coming in with Renault power. Formula One have said no, so they've gone, oh, well, we'll bring in Cadillac power in a couple of years. So, of course, Renault would turn around and going, well, what's the point then? We're guaranteed to have a customer for 2 years, and then they're gone. I mean, it just it can't make financial sense not to have customer teams, surely.
I think I might be lagging. Hello? Can you hear me?
I can still hear you fine. I can hear you fine.
Okay, great. You lagged on my end, but we're back. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I mean, Renault, they've got to be spending a lot of money. And obviously you're not selling that to anyone. That's all that cost is staying in-house.
You can't actually sell them as well, or any Alpine car. Like, they're available in Europe.
Yeah.
So
But I mean, even just the F1 engines.
Oh yeah, there's no customers. There's nobody wants them because they're terrible.
Yeah, and they're like 20 horsepower now down, aren't they? They reckon still, which they're going to have to stick with to the end of next year. It kind of feels at the moment, doesn't it, that they're in trouble, and everyone else is kind of going, well, we got no vested interest, we don't care, and Formula One's kind of there going, well, you're not, it's not like a Ferrari or a multi-champion Mercedes or something like that. We don't really care. Gasly, you said obviously about how he hasn't signed obviously his extension.
They told Andretti.
Could that be out of worry that he might end up without a seat not too distant future?
Yeah, I disconnected the call for a second, so I'm just going to say yes.
Fair enough.
There you go.
Yeah, what else have we got to talk about? We've got the 2026 regs. Potentially going to be spicy. I mean, the cars are being made smaller.
Yeah,
obviously, we've got all this stuff at Activero. Well, it's a bit difficult to always tell, isn't it? Because obviously we said we were going to talk about this last week, but then we kind of dived into the data and you can't really tell a huge amount yet.
No, it seems like
we
a
are
step in the right
slowly
direction,
losing Jamie.
Small. Can you? I think I'm just running about 5 seconds behind. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. Yeah, you're really thinking about every response before you say it.
Right. Well, I'm just a thoughtful guy. It's just like our league racing days, me being about 5 seconds behind you. So, yeah.
As if you were within 5 seconds most of the time.
The regs seem to be a step in the right direction. I mean, the cars are smaller, they're lighter, they can go around low speed corners probably faster just because they're so heavy, like boats at the minute. So it should make a difference. It looks positive.
And they reckon they're going to be quicker down the straights as well by up to 10 miles an hour, which when already we've got some of the quickest F1 cars we've ever seen in a straight line. That's quite scary.
Yeah, I think they'd lose a lot of downforce in the high-speed corners, I'd imagine, just because they're taking downforce off to make them lighter. There's less wiggle room.
Well, it's active aero, isn't it?
Yeah, and there's less wiggle room in the, what's it called, the underfloor, the side pod area.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they should lose speed in the high-speed corners, but gain it probably back and more in the low speed and the straights.
I think they're going to taper off how quick the cars are anyway. I don't think they're quite going to be as quick. Because, obviously, these regulations were meant to be originally it was meant to be 5-6 seconds a lap slower than the 2021 cars, wasn't it? And it's ended up really only being 2 or 3. So we always kind of take what they say with a pinch of salt.
Yeah.
But, of course, whenever you're looking at new regs, we think of one man that's going to nail it, don't we, Jamie? That, of course, man being Adrian Newey. Apparently, and it's a big apparently, he has been sniffing around down at Aston Martin. To such an extreme, they wanted to keep this quiet. They were sending people home on the day to try and stop it from leaking to the press. I hate to imagine a world where we see Lance Stroll with a dominant Formula 1 car.
And they would have to sign someone pretty useless to go next to him. So
is he going to be Zhou Guanyu and Lance Stroll fighting for a Formula 1 World Championship?
I don't see that happening. Fernando Alonso could be in for an absolute treat if he sticks around beyond 26 in that team.
Well, it'll be for 2026, wouldn't it?
I am still lagging quite a lot. So
this is hilarious. I'm so sorry to the viewers. This is hilarious. I just said yes. That was it, and then you stopped.
Oh well.
This is so funny.
Yeah, I'm 5 hours behind you, I think. And
yes, yeah.
Yeah, the internet is struggling.
The delay might be even worse. Oh man, this is so funny. So Newey apparently could be heading to Aston Martin in the near future, but I guess obviously we'll keep you updated on that one as and when we can. Jamie's internet is definitely struggling, so I think we'll go into the quiz, Jamie. We'll do our predictions, and we've been able to rattle through everything we wanted to pretty well. So I think obviously we'll finish it off after those. I believe you're on quiz this week.
I am, and it's going to be interesting
Wonderful.
that I can't actually hear your answers very much. I'm also using my phone to record, so I'm going to have to find a different way to measure the time. Right, I'm going to take a minute. You're going to have to just say your answer to the camera, and then at the end, I'll go over the answer list, and the viewers are going to tell how many you got, because I really want to hear all of them.
This is so funny.
Yes, your quiz regards the Spanish Grand Prix, as we know, this weekend.
Oh, no.
So, I was going to do the classic, name every Spanish winner, but there's 2 of them. So, that would have been quite easy. Instead, we're going to go for name every winner whose native tongue is Spanish.
Oh, dearie me.
And your time starts now.
Fernando Alonso, Carlos Sainz, Sergio Perez, Hector Raback. I don't know whether you ever won a race. Carlos Pache or Hermanos Rodriguez. Sorry. Trying to think of other Spanish-speaking countries in Formula 1. How many answers are there?
I
don't know.
Jamie
Jamie
got
can't
5
hear me.
more. I didn't hear a lot of them.
Spanish-speaking winners. I hope you're not counting Brazil in this, because obviously they speak Portuguese.
No,
not Spanish.
you just said Carlos Hache, and he's Brazilian.
Yeah, I got that wrong. Fangio.
There you go.
Any more Argentinians? Tarso Marquez?
You've got
no.
8 seconds as I say this, which means your time's probably up.
It's probably been up for about 2 minutes. Yeah. I'm trying to think other Argentinian winners.
Okay, your time's up. I don't know how many you said. The ones that I think you didn't say, I crossed off the ones that I definitely heard. The ones that I didn't hear on my end, Argentinian in the 80s. Carlos
Argentinian
Reutemann.
in the 80s? Oh, of course. Completely forgot about Reutemann. Yeah, you're right.
This one you should have got if you remembered Colombia, but I didn't hear it.
Oh, yes. Juan Pablo Montoya, yeah. Didn't even kind of think about them, to be honest.
Yeah. And then this one you should have got if you said Venezuela, if you thought of that.
Oh, yeah, Pastor Maldonado, of course. I just don't know South America, apparently.
No, not very well. And then the other two were quite hard. You had... no, the other one, sorry. There was some bloke called Gonzalez from the 50s. So...
Oh, yes. Yeah.
I've just been...
Yeah, I was never going to get him.
Thinking, hello.
You've just been looking at your chin.
No, I just like... I picked up my phone to check something. I was like, oh, wait, I'm filming.
Oh, this is so... Let's just get the predictions done. This is so funny. What are the scores on the doors, Jamie, if you can hear me?
I can hear you. They are... I have to move my phone out of the way again because it's blocking my laptop. Oh, no. The scores are 39 to me and 36 to you.
Okay, 3 points in it then, as we return to Barcelona. So I get to predict first. I'm going to say... Max Verstappen, pole position. Max Verstappen, race victory. Lando Norris, P2. I'm going to real exciting. And I'm going to say P3. Oh, I'm going to be so stupid, but I'm going to say Lewis Hamilton.
Nice. I was going to say almost the exact same thing. So I will have to mix up a little bit. But I'm going to say two of the same things.
Oh, is it going to be Max Pole and Max Win?
Yes, it is going to be Max Pole, Max Win.
You're so boring.
I said it half an hour ago on the show. I can't get back
to I know you did, but I'm still salty.
I will then go George Russell in P2.
Oh, okay.
And I want to say Norris, but you said Norris, so I'll go for Piastri.
Interesting. Okay, I like that. Go. I like that.
So we're both rinsing on Ferrari. Last time we did that, they got a 1-3, I believe. So
I said they'd do all right on Monaco. I think.
Oh well, there you go. Maybe
I think I just called an Oscar Piastri win, which could have happened. It could have happened. There we go. We'll get those predictions.
Ironically, we're actually kind of back to normal now. I can hear you fine, but the show's about to end.
Oh, wonderful.
So I hope you enjoyed the last 10 minutes of car crash.
It would have been an annoying wheel episode without some awful internet. Like we mentioned though at the start, of course, if you aren't already, please do make sure you drop a sub, drop a follow, all that good stuff. Like we said, we're going to be a little bit all over the show the next few weeks, but we really cannot thank you guys enough for the support so far, obviously, in 2024. I was actually comparing the numbers between us uploading this here and uploading on my main YouTube channel. The numbers basically haven't changed. It's incredible. So thank you to everyone for the... Exactly, and our fans, I hope, love us as well, even though we are terrible podcasters. But yeah, we'll be back at some point, hopefully next week, if Jamie either hasn't been shot or his internet is working again. Killed by a deer. Yeah, that deer's family that looks down on you. I bet they'll come back for you. But yeah, we'll be back very soon, hopefully with a more knowing wheel.
I hope that's that's
I haven't even finished.
It's well on.
Oh, man. Enjoy.